Let me ask you something, ... Have you ever walked into a room and felt invisible? Not because you had nothing to offer, but because no one saw you as someone they needed to notice. They smiled at you, they nodded, they were polite. But deep down, you could feel it. You weren't being respected. You were being tolerated. And the worst part, you weren't weak. You were just, harmless. See, most people won't say this out loud. But in this world, being kind without boundaries, being open too soon, being too easy to understand is a liability. You show your cards before the game begins. You make it obvious that you're not a threat. You want to be liked before you're respected, and in a world that plays by Machiavellian rules, that's how you get ignored. Because here's the truth no one tells you. People don't fear what's good. They fear what they can't figure out when they can predict your every move. When they know you'll always say yes, always smile, always forgive, always explain, they stop valuing you. You're no longer a mystery, you're a utility. Something they can use when it's convenient and overlook when it's not. Think about it. How many times have you been the one who cared more, who gave more, who stayed longer, only to be dismissed like you never mattered? And it hurts, right? But maybe that pain is trying to wake you up, because somewhere along the way we were taught that being nice would earn us love. That being easy to approach would make us indispensable. But what if that's not true? What if people don't respect kindness until it's wrapped in strength? What if the world doesn't respond to your openness? It responds to your unpredictability? Machiavelli once said, "It's better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." And that's not a call to cruelty. It's a call to presence, a call to mystery, a reminder that the most unforgettable people are not the ones who beg to be seen, but the ones who make others wonder what they're truly capable of. So maybe it's time to stop proving yourself. Maybe it's time to become unreadable. You know what most people get wrong about power? They think it's loud, that it's about raising your voice, making big moves, taking up all the space in the room. But true power, real power, isn't loud at all. It's quiet. It's the man in the corner who says nothing, but somehow everyone's watching him. Why? Because people don't fear what they understand. They fear what they don't. You can be the kindest, most genuine person in the world. But if you're too easy to read, if you wear every emotion on your sleeve, if you explain every move, if you show up the same way every day, people will file you away. Predictable, safe, non-threatening, and here's the harsh truth. People don't respect what they can predict. They use it. That's why the most respected presence in the room is often the one that says the least. The one that listens more than he speaks. The one who doesn't flinch when provoked. Because in that silence, people start to project. They wonder, they question. What's he thinking? Why isn't he reacting? Is he watching me? That's the seed of fear. Not the fear of harm, but the fear of the unknown. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He didn't teach men to be aggressive. He taught them to be unreadable. Because when people can't label you, they can't control you. And that's the key. Look around today. Social media trains us to overshare, to give people access to every thought, every opinion, every feeling. But all that visibility makes us vulnerable. And worse, it makes us ordinary. So what if you pulled back? What if, instead of always trying to be understood, you became a question no one could fully answer? Because mystery creates gravity. People lean in. They listen closer. They behave more carefully, not because you demanded it, but because your energy made them. The louder ones may grab attention in the moment, but the quiet ones, the ones who know the power of restraint, they stay in people's minds long after they leave the room. So the next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, to prove your intentions, to be fully known, pause and remember, you don't have to speak loudly to be powerful. You just have to be felt. Have you ever wondered why people push your buttons? Why they say something just a little too sharp, a little too personal, just to see how you'll react? It's not always malice. Sometimes it's curiosity, sometimes it's strategy. But more often than not, it's a test. See, in this world, people don't test the loudest person in the room. They don't poke the unpredictable one. They test the emotionally available, the ones who always respond. The ones who always explain. The ones who still feel the need to be understood, because once they know, you'll explain yourself. You become easy to manage. You might think your openness builds trust, and sometimes it does. But other times, it builds a road straight into your emotional center. A road people will walk when they're bored, threatened, or just curious to see if they can shake you. But here's the paradox of power. It's not found in reaction, it's found in restraint. The most threatening person isn't the one who yells back, it's the one who doesn't flinch. The one who listens, but gives you nothing. No emotion, no validation. No need to explain. And in that space of silence, that's when the game flips. Because now they start to wonder, did I go too far? Is he angry? Is he planning something? Their mind begins to do what silence was always designed to do. It creates a mirror. And in that mirror, they see themselves more than they see you. Machiavelli understood this long before psychology gave it a name. He didn't need to shout commands or defend his choices. He just let people talk, let them reveal themselves. And in his stillness, he gained power not by force, but by presence. Think about it in your own life. How many times have people only respected your boundaries when you stopped explaining them? How many times did your silence say more than your words ever could? You don't have to be cold, but you must be controlled. You don't have to bark to be feared. You just have to be unreadable, because the moment they can't predict your next move, they stop trying to play games with you. And that's not just power, that's freedom. Let's talk about the kind of power that doesn't make noise, because that's the kind that lasts, not the kind that walks in loud and forces people to listen, but the kind that walks in silently and makes people lower their voices without even realizing why. You see, real power doesn't need to be seen. It needs to be felt. And to build that kind of quiet influence, there are 4 steps, 4 subtle shifts that change how the world reacts to you. Step 1, be unpredictable. People don't fear what they understand. They fear contradictions. They fear the warmth that turns cold without warning. The kindness that doesn't guarantee access. The man who laughs with you today, but walks away tomorrow without explanation. This doesn't mean being cruel. It means being layered, complex, human. You want to stop being a personality and start being a presence, something they can't quite categorize. Because confusion is a powerful psychological tool. It makes people hesitate. It makes them respect boundaries they can't see. Step 2, don't explain, ever. If they question you, nod. If they accuse you, blink, but never justify. Why? Because explanation is access. When you explain, you invite them inside. You show them where your emotional switches are. And once they know that, they start flipping them. Machiavelli understood, silence isn't weakness, it's a shield. You can't be manipulated if no one knows how you think. So let them wonder. Step 3, send mixed signals on purpose. This is hard for people pleasers, I know, but clarity isn't always your friend. Sometimes emotional inconsistency creates respect, kind one moment, detached the next, present then gone. That emotional tension keeps people from ever feeling fully comfortable around you, and that's the point. Because the moment they feel too safe, they start testing limits. But when they don't know which version of you they'll meet, they stay. Respectful. Step 4, stay calm while others lose control. This one is the most powerful of all. When they raise their voice, you lower yours. When they insult you, you smirk. When chaos erupts, you stay grounded. That's not passive, that's strategy. Because in every storm, the one who doesn't move becomes the one everyone orbits. It's not about winning arguments. It's about owning the atmosphere. You don't need to shout. You don't need to threaten. You just need to be felt in the silence, because the most dangerous man in the room is rarely the one talking. Let me tell you something that took me years to learn. You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room to be the most powerful one. In fact, the opposite is often true, because presence, the kind that lingers after you leave, doesn't come from what you say. It comes from what you don't say. You've probably met someone like this before. They don't talk much, they don't overshare, But when they walk into a room, the energy shifts. People become more careful with their words, more aware of their own tone. Why? Because silence makes people project when you don't reveal everything, when you're calm, measured, and the little unreadable people start filling in the blanks with their own imagination. And here's the twist. What they imagine is always more powerful than what you could have said. This is how real presence is built. Not by performing, not by trying to be charismatic, but by being deliberate, by choosing your words like they cost you something, and by recognizing that your silence, when used well, speaks louder than noise ever could. Machiavelli knew this. He didn't need to shout orders. He let his quietness haunt the room. Because when people don't know what you're thinking, they begin to watch you more closely. They analyze your pauses. They dissect your eye contact. They search for meaning in your stillness. That's power, not fear based on violence, but respect built on mystery. You don't have to be a threat. You just have to be perceived as one, and the beauty of that? You never have to lift a finger. The mere belief that you might is enough, because the person who gets remembered isn't the one who says the most. It's the one who left a question, hanging in the air, the one whose absence made people uncomfortable, simply because they couldn't predict his next move. So if you've ever felt overlooked, unheard, underestimated, try this. Don't raise your voice. Don't over-explain. Don't play all your cards. Instead, become a presence. One that doesn't chase attention, but commands it. Because in the end, the most unforgettable people aren't the loudest. They're the ones who say the least yet. Change everything by being there. Let's get real for a second. Power isn't always about one big move. Sometimes it's built in the smallest choices you make every single day. Quiet moves, invisible shifts, the kind of habits that don't look impressive on the outside, but over time, they change the way people treat you. If you want to become unreadable, untouchable, someone who commands respect without saying a word, these 5 habits are your foundation. Habit 1, don't be the first to react. When someone says something sharp, rude, or baiting, pause. Everyone else scrambles to respond, to defend, to win. But not you, because in that pause, you signal one thing: I'm calculating. And that unsettles people far more than anger ever could. Think of poker. Who's more dangerous? The guy shouting across the table, or the one who just stares, unreadable, and waits? Exactly. Habit 2, speak less, speak slower, leave earlier. Most people overshare in the name of connection, but you speak only when it matters. You choose your words carefully, and when the moment starts to slip into noise, you leave. That exit, that pause, that mystery, it sticks in people's minds. They don't just remember what you said. They remember what you didn't. Habit 3, withdraw to create weight. We live in a world that rewards constant availability, but that's a trap. Because when you're always around, your presence loses gravity. The Wolf isn't respected because he's always there. He's respected because he appears, then disappears. Your absence should feel like a shift in the atmosphere. And when people feel that shift, they start moving differently next time you enter the room. Habit 4, never explain your decisions. This one's tough, especially if you're used to justifying your choices. But every explanation is a leak. In your authority, you said no, let it be no. You left early? Let the silence answer why. Because the second you start defending, you're no longer leading, you're negotiating. And unreadable men do not negotiate their boundaries. Habit 5. Stay emotionally neutral. This world will test you, tease you, try to make you flinch. People will throw shade, flirt, guilt trip, provoke, just to see if they can pull emotion out of you. And when you don't bite, when you simply observe, maybe offer a slight smile and withdraw, they feel it, they fear it. Because they can't tell where your power ends and where their control begins. These aren't just tactics. They're postures, disciplines, quiet rituals that, over time, teach the world one thing: you are not someone to play with, because the more they try to read you, the more power you hold. There's a fine line, a razor's edge, that very few men learn to walk. The line between fear and respect. And if you lean too far in either direction, You lose your grip on power. Let me explain. If people only fear you, they'll obey you. But in silence, they'll plot your downfall. They'll smile in your presence, but curse you behind closed doors. That's short-term control. It works, sure, but it's fragile. Because fear, by itself, breeds rebellion. Now flip it. If people only respect you, but don't fear crossing you, they'll admire you and still walk all over you. They'll talk over you, interrupt you, ask for more than they give. Because respect without consequence feels safe. And what feels safe gets tested. So what's the solution? Tension. A subtle, unspoken tension. The kind that says, I'm calm but not soft. I'm kind but I'm not to be played with. I'll listen, but don't mistake that for weakness. It's the energy of a man who gives space generously, but sets boundaries without words. The kind of man who doesn't need to raise his voice, because people already lean in when he speaks. This tension, this delicate balance, is what Machiavelli understood better than most. He didn't believe in cruelty. He believed in unpredictability. He knew that when people can't quite read you, when they're not sure what version of you they'll get, they behave better. They weigh their words, they adjust their tone. They don't want to find out what happens if they cross the line. That's not dominance through violence. That's presence through uncertainty. So ask yourself, do people walk lighter around you because they respect your core or because they fear your reaction? If it's only one or the other, you're out of balance. But if it's both, if people respect what you bring and tread carefully because they don't want to lose access to it, then you've built something powerful. Something rare. Not a reputation. A presence. And presence, when held with quiet tension, becomes the kind of power that doesn't fade after you leave the room. It echoes. Let me ask you something. Have you ever met someone who barely said a word, but days later you're still thinking about them? Not because of what they did, but because of what they didn't. That's not coincidence. That's strategy. Obsession isn't created through attention. It's created through distance, through presence that's felt and then withheld. If you want to be unforgettable, if you want to live in someone's mind long after you've left the room, there are 4 quiet strategies you need to understand. Strategy 1. Create contrast. Most people walk into a room trying to blend in or dominate. You do neither. You speak less. You move with calm. You hold back energy, not out of shyness, but out of control. This contrast between you and the noise around you forces people to adjust. They slow their speech. They measure their tone. Not because you told them to, but because your energy demanded it. That's power through presence, not performance. Strategy 2. Let them imagine who you are. Don't over-explain yourself. Don't fill the silence with stories, stats, or self-promotion. Let them guess. Let them fill in the blanks. Because the moment someone starts building a story about you in their mind, you've already won. They're now doing your PR for free, and the mystery they create is almost always more powerful than any truth you could give them. Strategy 3. Leave things unfinished. Most people crave closure, a clean ending, a tidy bow. You walk away mid-sentence, metaphorically or literally. You end the conversation while the energy is still rising. You disappear just before they were ready to say goodbye. That open loop, that missing piece, will echo in their mind far longer than a perfect conclusion ever would. Because when the mind can't finish the story, it replays it. Strategy 4. Protect your inner world. They'll ask what drives you, what hurts you, what excites you. You don't lie, but you don't unfold completely either. You give them shadows, not headlines. You let them know you feel, but never how deep or why. Because the moment someone fully maps your inner world, they start building paths into it. And unreadable men don't allow shortcuts into their soul. In the end, the unforgettable man is not the one who chases attention. It's the one who offers just enough to feel real, but remains slightly out of reach, because mystery isn't a performance, it's a decision. And when people feel like they almost had you but never fully did, that almost will haunt them. So, who do you become when the world stops being impressed by words? What kind of man stands out not because he shouts, but because his silence lingers? The truth is, in today's world where everyone is performing, oversharing, Constantly trying to be seen, the rarest power is presence. Not noise, not charm, presence, the kind of presence that makes people second-guess themselves. The kind that enters a room quietly, but shifts the entire energy without saying a thing. That's the man Machiavelli would have admired today, not the loud leader. Not the flashy alpha, but the one can quite read. Because here's what people won't tell you. They don't fear what you say. They fear what you might say. They don't fear what you do. They fear what you might be capable of. It's not your expression that makes them pause. It's your restraint. It's not your confidence that earns their respect. It's your unpredictability. You don't need to strike. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to make them feel that if you did, everything would change. That's presence. That's the weight of a man who doesn't chase validation because his energy already carries consequence, you see. People remember noise in the moment, but they remember mystery and memory. And when you become the man whose silence haunts the room, who leaves a pause no one can interpret, you're no longer just someone they saw. You're someone they can't forget. That's the modern Machiavellian. He doesn't beg to be loved. He doesn't demand to be feared. He just walks the tightrope between both without ever breaking eye contact. And when he disappears, they don't move on. They replay every moment, every silence, every glance, not because of what he gave them, but because of what he withheld.